Before we dive into this episode, I just want to let you know, if you want to get access to episodes before anybody else, head on over to patreon.com/concerts that made us. And as a bonus, you'll get access to videos of some of the episodes and a host of other benefits. We've also teamed up with Band Builder Academy to offer you 10% off their membership. Details of both can be found in the show notes below.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down, the greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
UK, this is Steve Ramone. You're listening to Concerts That Made Us.
About her, she's got a smile that lights the skies. Still strings on her hammer, letting go the curtains. There's no such thing as perfect, but she tries. I try to tell myself I'm happy. I won't be around long in one place. I'll spend my days not thinking about you. You'll spend your days not bringing me down. I gotta see what else is out there. I gotta breathe this dirty town. So I am at the wedding ceremony. Never saw another eager bride as she. I'm not trying to call that girl a phony. That scene just ain't my cup of tea. She's got a thing or two about her. She's the reason that I got to run away. I'll spend my days not thinking about you. You'll spend your days not bringing me down.
Steve, you're very welcome to the show.
I can't tell you how glad I am to be with you. I appreciate the invitation. I really do.
No worries. It's fantastic to have you here now. I'm looking forward to getting some insights into your music. So you released the album Chasing Daylight on May 19th. What can you tell us about it?
It's the culmination of a lot of work, a labor of love between myself and my longtime collaborator Chips Enough from the band Enough's Enough. He produced the record. Had a lot of great guys playing on it. Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake played a couple tracks on it. We had Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick played drums on 2-3 songs in there. We had Dan McGinnis from CCR, from Creedence Clearwater, came in and did a couple tracks for us. It's just an amazing time, and it was it came about so organically and so easy, not easily because it was a lot of work, but it seemed like it was destined to happen. So really, really happy with it.
Yeah, and how do you go about getting so many legends to appear on your album? I think you should have called it like Steve's Legends Album Collection,
I appreciate that. I grew up with Chip. I grew up with Chip and Donnie. I bought my first guitar from Donnie V when I was 5th or 6th grade or something like that. And we all grew up in the same kind of local area, which ended up being quite the hotbed for not only local musicians, but for musicians all over the place. We kind of carry, Enough's Enough, and those guys kind of carried on the tradition from Styx, who had come up from that area, and a bunch of great players there. And I'm just trying to keep up, man, as best I can. But I'm sorry, to answer your question, we you play enough, you tour enough, and as ridiculous as it sounds, COVID helped create those opportunities. We actually, as ridiculous as it sounds, Vinny from Sponge was supposed to do a song on the record, and we never got around to it because we ended up having Dan from CCR come on and grab that part on Suspicious Minds. And then we were also supposed to have from Styx, the drummer from Styx, and he's going to be so mad at me for not remembering his name right now, but we couldn't fit him either. So COVID had a big to do with that because everybody was available, and not only that, everybody was dying to play. None of we all do this because we love to play. Don't think for a second that I love doing the press and I love talking to everybody, but you don't. I'm sure when a band's on the road, they get 45 to an hour and a half every night, every day of bliss. They get that because the rest of it sucks. The rest of it's pretty brutal, man. So we do this because we love it, and a lot of us do this because we have to, literally, because if we don't play music, we go insane. So I just got really lucky, and guys were like, "Yeah, you got something you want me to play on? Sure, send it over, man. I'll fly it right back to you." So that's how a lot of that stuff happened.
Oh, happy days, happy days. And when it came to writing the music, then where did the inspiration come from?
I write 3 to 4 minute songs about girls that wouldn't go out with me in high school. Right. That's pretty much it. So I have a wealth of to draw upon, a wealth of instances to draw upon where I'll never run out of songwriting inspirations. No, I kind of kid about that. It is the truth. I do like to write 3 to 4 minute pop songs. But I like to layer the lyrics so that there's double meanings. You can take it as you can take them as simple anthems if you want. You can dig into songs like Sunny Day and While It Might Be Happy and Bright and stuff. If you actually read the lyrics, you'll realize it's about two people that are just completely falling apart and just not wanting to be around each other anymore. So there's hopefully you bring some artistry to the whole pop rock sensibility. I would relate it mostly to I'm just chasing Delamitri, to be honest with you. That's what that to me. You take pretty voices like that and really masterful songwriting, and you put a little edge to them and some angst and some creativity. Man, that just does it for me. It really does.
Yeah. And what do you hope people get from the album?
I know it doesn't really. It never really works out that way, but I don't know if you grew up like this, but I grew up feeling as if there was something, I had feeling as if I had something to give and something to share with everybody if I would only be given the chance and given the right environment in which to do it. And that's what this means to me, man. It really does. I can walk up to, I mean, to this day, I couldn't get arrested walking down the street naked in my own hometown, but I can go to St. Louis and they treat me like I'm like a rock god or something like that. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. But really, what you're really hoping people get from this is, I didn't know he had that in him. Well, number one, I like this. This is good. And I didn't know he had that in him. And I'm looking at him like differently now, not better or worse, not more important or less important, but just from a different artistic perspective. And when people start looking at you like you're an artist, I don't think anything scratches that artistic itch more than that.
True. Yeah. And, it's going to be a very hard album to follow up. Are you even there yet? Are you thinking about it yet?
It's written. It's already written, man. And I am so excited about the next batch of songs. I toured with the London Choir Boys last year. I opened for them all over North America, or all over the United States. And I actually had Enough's Enough as my band for that. I had to jump on that tour, so Chip and the guys were my backup band for that thing. But in the middle of that tour, I happened to have this one song that I was kind of a little glitchy on lyrics and stuff with. So I was able to sit down with Paul Guerin from the Choir Boys, and we finished that song off together. And it's called She Can't Let Go. And I got to tell you, man, the next batch of songs are just so they take what we started with, right? And they hone those sensibilities a little bit more. It's not a poppier record. It might be a little bit heavier record in some spots and a little bit lighter record in other spots, but you get both of them. And then we actually came up with another kind of like kind of tranquila kind of song that we're gonna throw in there as well. So the next record, I simply can't wait to get back in the studio and tidy it up, because, man, I think, and thanks for asking, it's gonna be good. I mean, it's gonna be good. And we have the same cast of characters. Chip will be in to play bass on most of it. I'll have a lot of my new guys coming in. Eric Robert, who plays keys with Kingfish out of Nashville, has joined the band permanently now. So I'll have him in the studio. A lot of cats that are just killing it are going to be out there. And then I've already gotten all those guys. I've already gotten Vinny from Sponge, and one of the couple of Styx guys, and Dax Nielsen has already agreed to play drums on a couple other ones. Joel Hoekstra, we'll get him on a couple tracks and stuff. So yeah, we'll be able to take all these new songs and kind of plug and play the same guys into it, and then hopefully find even a few more. I'm going on tour with Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple and Yngwie Malmsteen in September. So I'll be on tour with all those guys. I always end up meeting a bunch of musicians. We always end up, all right, come on, I'll play on yours, you play on mine. So yeah, who knows who the next players are going to be, but the songs are there. We have 15 to 20 songs to choose from that we're going to pick apart and just see, which ones make the grade.
Oh man, the anticipation just to see who's on it now is killing me already. You need to get it done quick.
Yeah. We're trying to get the whole thing finished up before we go on tour, just so that we can kind of have it ready.
Yeah. And at this stage, so we'll dive into your musical history to give the listeners a sense of where you come from. So if you can now, can you remember your earliest musical memory?
I remember being baptized. It's the weirdest thing. Right. I wasn't baptized until I think I was like 2.5 years old. I remember the priest yelling at my mom about it, and then I remember the church music. It was and I remember it was in key A. Now that I can still think of it, it was A minor, but now that I don't know exactly what song it was or anything like that, but I remember thinking that fell really soft on my ears. And the first time I ever saw anything live was at a now torn down stadium in Chicago, and it was my dad's Mexican, so the guy came in on a horse, right? It was mariachis, the guy came strolling in on the stage on a horse and got up there with a hat and everything. It was live mariachis. It was wonderful. And then my first real live concert that I ever went to, but from that, okay, so after that, it's Elvis Presley. By the time I was, you know, I don't know how old, but I know it was 1970 something where Elvis had that Live from Hawaii concert that was simulcast all over the world. I saw that. I went insane. I immediately started badgering my parents for a guitar. I could not get enough of it. I got the record. I wore the grooves out on it. I still to this day know all the songs. Man, that did it for me, right? So that's when I started playing music. And then really what defined a concert experience for me was then going and seeing Bruce Springsteen, the Born in the USA tour. He walked out on stage, just him, the harmonica and the band and everything, and went into Thunder Road. And then when the whole band came in, and then when that sax solo came in at the end with Clarence Clemens, I was like, I sat down. Everybody else is jumping around going, oh my God, this is great. I sat down because something really struck me. I was like, the communication factor between him and the crowd. I was like, oh, this is a whole nother level. It's not just the notes you're playing. It's not just the notes that are coming out and hitting your ears. It's the experience, and it's the energy, and it's the transfer of that energy that really matters in this whole dynamic, right? That's when it all settled in. That's when I really understood what it was that I had to do in order to make that experience myself, you know, because let me tell you, once you do that, there's no going back, and there's no other thing that scratches that itch. You hit a note on your guitar and you hear it bounce off the wall, you know, in a humongous stadium. And then later that night, you hear the same thing, only it's bouncing off of 10,000 people, 15,000 people. There's no replacement for that, you know?
Yeah.
There's no substitute for that. So that feeling between you and the crowd is what keeps us coming back. And that's really when I think I came alive. And so you asked me, when was the first time in my first musical? Well, I heard music and all those different experiences that I talked about, but I listened to it, but I never heard it until that one big concert when it all came clear to me.
Yeah, I get you. And, you know, growing up then in your early years, what was your local music scene like? Was it very vibrant and kind of packed full of great bands?
I came in, as a child, I spent summers in Puerto Rico. So I listened to a lot of salsa, merengue and stuff like that when I was when I was gone for the summers. But when I would come back home, there was this weird thing. I don't know if it was like this in Europe or anything, but here, the jobbing bands used to play like, you know, they'd go in, they'd play the same club for like a week or 2 weeks in a row, you know, they'd all have the same, like, you wouldn't call them uniforms or costumes or whatever, but, you know, they'd all dress, you know, like bands and stuff like that. You know, I came in when I started a gig, I came in just at the end of that. So it's transferring from that to more of a loose kind of, you know, jammy kind of deal there. So around here, it was very vibrant, but like I said, it was just starting to end up, and that's what I was getting at. That scene was just starting to end, and now it was becoming more of a free-for-all, right? So it's like, you know, everybody's kind of playing with everybody. And that's when that whole top 40 kind of dance thing kind of started getting in there. And then after that whole dance thing kind of faded, then it was all rock, right? And now you had, you know, that whole Nirvana kind of crowd in there. So it was in flux, really. Nothing got to settle in, you know, from the time you went from that disco craze to that kind of rock craze to the kind of, I don't know, that metal, hair metal phase, right? Yeah. And then you went to grunge, and then you went to kind of more of a techno thing. Nothing got to really stick. And because of that, the local scene, you know what the local scene did? It went all 100% tribute bands. So now it was like a Motley Crue tribute, a Van Halen tribute, a Led Zeppelin tribute, a Thing tribute like that. I didn't really care for that. I don't really want to do that, man. I just always wanted to play, you know, original music. So now you had that. And then through that finally came the Belmonts and stuff like that, you know, the Belmont streets and stuff like that in Chicago, where all these cool, very, albeit tiny, live original music venues started popping up. And that's when it started, clicking. And that's where you got your Billy Corgans from and all those guys and stuff like that, because, churches were closing down and turning into venues and stuff like that. We all play different areas like that. And that's when it got really cool. If as it stands right now, it's in flux again, man. COVID killed it. There was a lot of great things that were happening, a lot of great things. And then COVID just killed it. And it's just now starting to, the little green shoots are starting to pop out of the dirt.
Yeah. Well, at least it's starting to come back, and I can't wait to hear about this. Your own shows, what are they like? For any listeners that haven't caught one, give them the full experience.
Full experience is like, it's anywhere from it's either a 5 or a 6 piece band, and you'll no tapes, no nothing. I mean, everything you hear is going to be played live, and it's going to come off sounding like Springsteen or Petty or John Cougar on steroids. That's really what it's like, because our guys are monstrous players. So that's first and foremost my number one thing. I mean, and Chips and Up is going to be playing bass with me on this tour as well, coming up. So, we're just going to have, and like I said, it's either a top call Chicago or a top call Nashville guy that's in the band. I've recently solidified my rhythm section, so now I'll have the same drummer and bass player around all the time. I'll have the same keyboard player around all the time. So now, and then we're really, really close to solidifying our newest lead guitar player, who is just a monstrous player and sings like a bird. So the live shows are like, we'll do everything that you hear on the record, but we'll also do stuff. We'll go some straight up blues, stuff like that if we want to, but 4-piece harmonies, me, and then you'll have 3 guys singing as well. So you'll hear straight up harmonies. Again, no tapes, no nothing, no auto tunes, any of that. Just a bunch of guys that can really play out there, just, killing it.
Sounds great. You touched on something there about solidifying your lineup. I speak with a lot of musicians from different countries, and I hear from them that, if they're looking for a drummer, the drummer will probably play in at least 10 other bands. It's hard to find people and keep them in your group. What's it like for you?
It's been a labor of love, because you get to play with a lot of really good people. But like my last tour, Enough's Enough was my band. They've got their own deal. I've got my deal. It was not sustainable to have them as my band. Somebody's going to have to turn down some good stuff at some point. So we had always been looking, always been, in the background, making, relationships and stuff like that. So when it finally came time to do that, we had the guys. We knew who, in my mind's eye, I knew who the cats were that I wanted back there, and how it, really good idea how it sounded. And it's funny you mentioned drummers, because drummers, it starts with a drummer. It really, really starts with a drummer. If you don't get that happy kind of bouncy vibe from a drummer, at least for me, I love a guy that is a perfect combination between power and touch. I got to have the power, but he also has to be able to nuance the song too, if it's required, and be dynamically, present at all times in order to bring the thing up and down and up and down, and be able to just kind of watch me and know what I'm kind of asking from, and so once you get that, then you kind of got your leader there that can push the rest of it. But, it's great. And it's great. And it sucks too, because like you said, somebody else calls up and they got great stuff to do. You can't tell them no. What are you going to do? I was like, I'm not your friend anymore, or something like that. You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So what you do is I said do. What you do is you make the environment, you make the experience as great as you can, right? So I try and make the songs as great as I can. When they're playing with me, I try and make them as comfortable as I can. I try and be as conscientious and astute a leader as I possibly can be. And I pay them, what's the word? I pay them equally, which is everybody gets paid equally. It's like vast majority of times guys get paid more than I do on a show or something like that. Once it comes down to it, and they know that, and I'm open and honest with them, and I'm transparent with them, and they know the experience. And so usually what you can ask of musicians in that situation is that, like, look, I understand you got mouths to feed or whatever. So if it's a paying gig that you got to do, I totally understand it. If it's an original gig, though, then I expect to be at the very top of your priorities when it comes to original bands that you play with, unless you're playing with Motley Crue this weekend, they ask you to join or something like that, then I get that. But otherwise, if Three Jackson and Jill are calling you and telling you, and asking for that particular night, the answer is no, So that's pretty much how I
that's fair enough. It's fair enough.
Yeah.
It's not too much to ask. And out of all the gigs you've played in your career, so is there one that sticks in your mind as the best experience you've had that maybe you revisit over and over again?
Yeah. What is the name of that? Wow. The Rockin' the River Fest in Montana. I played guitar with Enough's Enough for 2 years there when Tony Fennell was unavailable. And so there was that one, Rockin' the River Fest. So we were opening for in front of Alter Bridge. We opened for Alter Bridge and playing in front of 25,000, with just not only that, but just the anticipation that was in the crowd because they knew, it was us and then Alter Bridge, it was just magical. It was electric. There was that one. And then I played a show at, I'm trying to remember the name of the country club here in Illinois, but it was for a festival of some sort. I opened for Gary Sinise. And they said estimates were about 30,000 because it was a big outdoor fest. And we literally could not see. I only had, it was a 35-minute set, but for some reason we walked up there and they loved us. I mean, we'd never heard roars like that after a song and stuff. But me and Paul, the drummer, would turn around and looked at each other like, all right, well, just keep playing, see what happens, But by the end of the set, they were all standing, they were screaming for us. And if you've ever had 30,000 people stand and roar, man, you can get used to that really quick, man. You can get really, really quick. And that was about, I can't remember how many years ago that was, but I think I was still working a day gig at that point. And let me tell you, going back to your day gig on that following Monday and sitting down there and clocking in, I'll tell you, it's a humbling experience.
I could imagine. And to flip it around now, not to get too negative and without naming names, is there a gig you would consider the worst experience you've had? And how did you deal with it?
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you, man. I'm thankful for every last one of them. Yes, I've had them completely go haywire, completely go south. I've had all those, but I wouldn't give up a single one of them. I'll tell you what. There's spots in Illinois, not in Illinois. There's spots in America where you go, and it's almost as if time forgot them, and it's just like almost lawless. We played a gig, and this is just last year. We played a gig somewhere in Missouri, and we walked in for sound check. The place was pretty crowded already, and it's a smoking bar. God, I didn't know there were still places you could smoke cigarettes inside a bar, but we walked in, and it was just wafting everywhere. And I immediately just started shaking my head because it was my is my guy Josh, who runs the show, who runs the everything for us on the road. He walked in first. He goes, "Oh no!" I go, "Oh no, what?" I took a breath. I go, and then I didn't say anything because I knew. I just started shaking my head. And then as I walk in, all the other band members come walking in. They're like, "Oh, come on!" It's like I just knew, shaking my head. I am going to have to listen to this all night, all day today, all night tonight. I'm going to have to listen to it on the bus tomorrow. I'm going to have to listen to it. And it's like, there's nothing I can do but just sit here and listen to my band bitch at me about having to suck in cigarette smoke all night. So that was a tough one, man. And I tell you what, I did feel like shit the next day because you're singing, you're sucking in all this air, and then you're going at it. But luckily, while we were playing the set, I saw the promoter come walking by, and he just gave me the thing and, walked out. He just handed the check. I know he gave my guy the check and then, just walked out. And I went, okay, cool. And right then I knew exactly what I was going to say to the guys. I'm like, never again. We'll never be here again. We'll never play with him again. We'll never blah, blah, blah. We'll never blah, blah, blah. And so I just went crazy on the whole thing. And then that was kind of enough to get him off my back. There you go.
And, how do you approach finding gigs and setting up tours then?
Right now, I'm working tentatively with artists worldwide, and they're taking care of tours, and then the label, Pavement Entertainment, they help me with tours and stuff as well. I am looking to redo the way we do local shows here. Normally, we have local booking agents, or either Midwest or like West Coast or East Coast and stuff like that, and they'll book you. And I'm completely reconfiguring the way I'm gonna do that stuff. And what I've done is we've reached out to music lawyers in different locales, right?
Mm.
We get them to represent us at the shows that we want to play. So instead of just like these guys having these shows, do you want to play this one? Do you want to play? No, we're saying, no, these are the shows that we want to play. Here's our bona fides, so to speak. And then can you make this happen? And then we just go from there. So that's kind of how we're doing booking from our perspective.
That's a good way of doing it. And maybe you can't talk about this now, but what kind of antics do you get up to while you're on tour?
I didn't know she was. No, anyway.
Oh, but
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Any wild partying, any crazy antics you get up to while you're on tour?
Oh, it's still, it still gets a little bit crazy. It can. It's not like it used to be, but I did a tour with the Midnight Devils, and I don't know if you've run across the Midnight Devils yet.
I have.
These guys are insane, and I love every last bit of. I love them, man. I love them. We would switch nights. One night they would open, the next night I would open, and on the nights that they would open, I would come on stage and I'd be scared, like going, "Oh man, I got to bring it tonight," because I know these guys have been baptized properly already. And sure enough, I'd walk out on their stage and they're all wearing their little glow in the dark things, and everybody's rearing to go. And so those are the nights you really just go at it. But and you're limited in what you can really talk about. I mean, I would love to come over to the UK and get a taste of whatever's in that water over there that helps you guys write such great songs, and have a couple pints with you and sit around and tell you, because we've got some good ones. I just wish I could share it.
Privileged information, so.
Yeah.
And when it's showtime, how do you psych yourself up before you go on stage, and then afterwards, how do you wind down?
So I don't need any psyching up to get up on stage. If anything, the only thing I do need is a little bit of quiet. Because if I get overstimulated when I'm right before I'm going on, I just can't kind of get in that zone, and then I get real kind of just, I don't know, you get kind of antsy, but I love doing this so much. And I never get nervous. I get a little anxious sometimes because I get anticipating the whole thing. I know what we're going to do. I know what the band's going to sound like. I know what we're going to play. I know that when we're going to, I mean, we're just confident when we walk out there that we're going to go kick ass. So it's like, I can't wait to deliver the message. I can't wait to get out there and play. So what I do is I usually just have one vodka tonic, and I'll sip that the half hour before the show. And then drink water the entire show. And then after the show, I like going directly to the merch booth and signing and hanging out and taking pictures and just talking with everybody, and doing as much of that as I can. And usually somebody wants to buy me a cocktail, and then what I'll do is I'll say I will have already scoped out, or my guy Josh will have already scoped out what they have on tap there or whatever. He knows what my favorite bottles of beer are, and then I'll have a bottle of beer, wrap with everybody, and then it's back on the bus, and you're tired at that point. I love sleep. So yeah, we'll sit around and we'll talk, and we'll shoot the shit for a while, and then that bus is rumbling down the highway, and man, just that little vibration puts you right to sleep. You sleep like a little baby on that thing.
Yeah. And the first morning you wake up after a big tour, you're kind of back to reality. You have the post-tour blues. How do you deal with it?
Tell you what, man, I got downright depressed after the last tour. And I'm not even, I was probably, not clinically depressed, but I was all out of sorts. Everything from your, everything from your sleep schedule to your just everything, the endorphins and everything that are surging when you're playing, and you're constantly sound checking and getting from one spot to the next and solving problems and stuff like that. That when it stops, you can get a little out of it. You can get, and so what I've found is the number one thing you have to do is you have to exercise. You absolutely have to exercise. You have to drink water, and you have to plan. Right? You have to have plans for what you're going to do when you get home. Because if you think about it, even if it means booking a show or two that following weekend at the local pub, just grabbing an acoustic guitar and doing an acoustic night somewhere, I'll do that. I'll make sure I get the workouts in. My son and we both love boxing. We both do jujitsu, so we get, I got my my jujitsu BJJ shirt on right now. So we do a lot of that. And that does the trick, but you got to get right back on the horse. I also found that when you're miserable, those are the best times to write songs. Nothing makes a good song like some misery.
That's a good one now. All that now, I haven't heard it before. It's normally like I get up and I go to work or spend time with the family, but that's a very solid plan you have. I imagine like within not so long, you'd forget about the bad feelings, and you're just right back into it.
Yeah, you do. And it's tempered with the smiles and stuff. You get to see the people you haven't seen in a while. You get hugs from the people that you love and that you've missed the whole time. And it's weird because you get depressed on the road sometimes too if you don't have enough of that. If you don't have enough physical contact with the people you love, even talking on the phone is one thing, but just having them there, looking in their eyes and really having them smile back at you, that it means something, it really does. So what you really have to do, honestly, is you have to take stock of your life when you either go on tour or come back from tour, and you have to be willing to say to yourself, all right, there's good and bad and everything, but how blessed am I to be able to do this?
True.
And you really have to, you got to check yourself is what you got to do, man. I mean, I just, every time I catch myself trying to victimize myself and making myself into a victim, I automatically just want to and say, nope, take stock. Look at what you're doing. Look at your life. Look at what you have. Shut the hell up and find something to do and enjoy, right? And that's not to say that there aren't people there with issues that need the help, that need professional help, that might need the meds, might need this or that or whatever. But even though they have fabulous things around them, no, that pain is real as well. And I pray for those people every day. But thank God I'm able to kick my ass out of those situations and just get back to work, right? And be thankful for what I have.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to your career, how do you measure success?
Streams. I measure my success. No, I'll tell you, I have different ways of measuring it, and I'll have different stages of measurement. And right now, the way I measure it is do I have somebody like you to talk to about my music? Check. Do I have a record out? Check. Am I signed to a label? Check. Am I, do I have a tour in store? Check. Do I have albums to push? Yes, I do. And do I have another record to record? Yes. I'm measuring it like everything's all go right now. The second record is going to pose a serious challenge because the sophomore blues are real. And like you said, I got to top this. I got to top this thing, right? I've got to bring it. Otherwise they're going to say, you know what? He took all the songs that he wrote his entire life and, he made one good record and that's it. It's like he was a one-trick pony. And I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to write my rumors. I'm going to write my rumors album or whatever, or my Born to Run album or whatever album it is, that defines me. I'm still going to write that one yet. It hasn't been written yet. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at, man.
Brilliant. Before we dive into the last couple of questions, then future plans. I know you've told us about the album being wrote and the tour coming up. Anything else you want to share with us before we dive into the last few questions?
Yeah, there's it just popped into my head, man. But I'm doing an initiative. Um, I'm gonna raise 10,000 pounds of food for my local animal shelter. Um, recently, recently went there and adopted a cat, and I had to. We have two big, gigantic dogs, and we love animals and everything. But I went there and I was absolutely floored at what they have to deal with, the amount of misery they have to contend with, and they're always begging for food. They're just always, we need food. We know we don't need donations. We need food. We need food. We need food. And I just felt like I felt called upon to do something. I know I need to help my fellow man as well. I'll do something like that. But I just felt like I was put in that position, and I was faced with something that really touched me, and I felt I needed to do something about it. So yeah, the 10,000 pounds of dog food initiative is going to be popping up on my website at the end of the week, and I'll make it very easy for you to send dog food or cat food to either the shelter that I have or your local shelter. So and because really, I don't care if it's 10,000 pounds that goes to that dog in the UK or that one over here down the street in Chicago, right? So, there's an animal getting fed, and that makes me happy.
Brilliant. I'll include a link in the show notes to make it easy for the listeners to donate as well.
Lovely, thank you.
And we'll dive into the last few then. I've been told that they're kind of increasingly hard, so I'll start off easy on you. If you weren't a musician, what do you think you'd be doing?
An engineer. I have a degree in network administration. I have a degree in technical management, and until all this stuff popped up, I was going to do my master's in decision analytics. I got accepted to Harvard, so I was going to do that. And I love numbers. I love crunching numbers. I love tinkering. I love fixing things. I would have been a doctor, but I am terrible with blood, and I'm terrible with seeing people in distress. So it keeps me from being able to perform and think and stuff like that. But if I didn't have to deal with that, I would have been a doctor. So engineering is what does it for me, and solving problems. I love gardening. I tried to clean them as well as I could. Some people wear gloves when they garden. I don't know what the point is. I mean, if you can't get your hands into the dirt and feel that Mother Earth, on your skin, I don't know what the point is, But that's another thing I could do. I could garden all day. I swear to God, I could be.
Oh man.
I could be a house husband if I had a wife that just wanted to work full time. She could work full time, and I would stay home and I would garden and damn it, cook up food and stuff like that.
Wouldn't be too bad. And the next one, so if you could see any musician or performer from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
It would have to be Elvis Presley. It would have to, it's tough, man, because you got the Beatles there, right? To see the Beatles or Elvis Presley or Ray Charles. Didn't get to see Ray Charles. That one kills me. I would have loved to have seen Ray Charles. I did get to see Prince. That was wonderful. But if I could have been there for that show in Hawaii that Elvis did, that's the one. That's absolutely the one. Beatles, Shea Stadium. I don't know. I don't even think you could hear the music at that one, So I don't know if that's the one I want to go to. But yeah, Elvis Presley. I don't know, man. There's something magical about him. Aside from just being a wonderful entertainer, he delivered the goods. His voice is. Listen to it now. It's super, smooth as silk when it needs to be. It's sweet as honey, and it can, it's as edgy as he wants to make it when he needs to be. Listen to him doing Long Tall Sally or anything like that, man. He had it all when it came to the pipes. When it came to the singing, he had that down, and I would have loved to have gotten a good upfront look at some of that, I did see Paul McCartney on his first, on his Flowers in the Dirt tour. I had front row center tickets for that. So I got to see him. Let me tell you, being 10 feet away from McCartney while he sings Yesterday with an acoustic guitar, pretty special.
I could imagine. Yep. Jeez. But yeah, I totally agree about Elvis. He is my number one as well. I'd do anything to have got to see him. It's just the whole the whole package. He had this mystical essence about him as well, didn't he?
He did. He absolutely had that. Talk about a brand, right? I mean, my gosh, that TCB, taking care of business thing, and then he's the first one to put together, the bands that we're talking about. It's like, I mean, he had Donald Duck Dunn playing bass. I mean, look up Donald Duck Dunn. He played on everything. He had what's his face playing James Burton. James Burton was his guitar player. I mean, the guy's a beast. Just so he had guys like that in his band that were just scary good. And they were a big part of why he was able to just get out there and perform with the confidence he performed with, because he knew he had this machine behind him that was just running things down, that was just clearing the way for him,
Exactly. And the next one, so if you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
Locked in a room, it's McCartney.
Really?
It's absolute. I was going to say Prince for a second there, and I was going to say, and then I was also going to say, what's his face? I just brought him up a second ago. That
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles, yeah. But those two guys are so unique, and so there's no writing with those guys. There's no. They're just too dominant a force to sit there. Oh, well, hey Prince, how about if you do this? You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Yo, Ray, how about if you take that piano part? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to shut up. Yeah, that's great, Ray. That's it. But McCartney, you can sit down with an acoustic guitar, right? So, and he's lefty and I'm righty. So his is going that way, mine's going this way, right? So you're just sitting there looking at each other, and both the sound holes are facing each other, and you're just hearing what the other guy's doing, and he's singing and you're singing. I think that would be pretty. Yeah, 24. Yeah, absolutely. I bet we get a couple good ones out of that session.
Definitely. It wouldn't get much better than that. And the final one. So, what song would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
What song would appear on the soundtrack to my life? It would most likely be. It most likely would be Suspicious Minds. I got to record it. I was like, that's the one, man. That's the one. It's got everything, like, it's got the soul. It's got the lyrics. It's got the shady lyrics and stuff like that, but it's also got the release. It's got the, it's got that ending that comes back and stuff like that. That's a good one. I've never been asked that one before, but yeah, I think if I had to pick that one, it would be something like that, because I got to tell you, man, it's sometimes it's not really about what's said. Sometimes it's about the feeling that's being evoked. And I think that would be the one. Yeah.
Brilliant. Has to be that one. So listen, Steve, I've really, really enjoyed chatting with you. It's been an absolute blast. Thanks a million.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Anytime you need me, man, I'm here for you. I'd love it if you, could play some of the songs and stuff. That would be wonderful. Really appreciate it.
Definitely.
And God bless you and the family and everybody out there in the UK. We're working on something. Would love to come out there and make something happen soon.
If there was something I could do to get close to you, I would jump on it. If there's a way I could prove that my feelings are true, I would jump on it. If there's a gift I could bring, shut up, a wedding ring. If there's a song I could sing, I would give you wings. If there's a word I could say, make the clouds go
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking. Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here.